Big McAdoo, up for a little afternoon apple bucking?
No.
Leap of Faith is a solid episode. However, to really enjoy it, one unfortunately has to look past many minor issues and character inconsistencies. In that regard, I wouldn't go as far as to say it's terrible or even bad. It's just simply not the most memorable of episodes, even with having the benefit of featuring two of the most charismatic returning antagonists. For this episode, we primarily follow the Apple family, which is interesting since every other episode from this arc, while not exactly focusing on the main six, does happen to feature them. Regardless, the Apple family is always incredibly charming to watch. Standing out is the Apple Bloom and Granny Smith dynamic, with Apple Bloom's naivete contrasting with Granny's experience, while both happen to maintain this sense of childlike wonder. Big Mac unfortunately takes a backseat in the latter half of the episode, not that he was really that involved, apart from his catchphrases. Of course, it's Applejack here who shines the brightest, with the central conflict of the episode revolving around her moral quandary, in what can be a pretty complicated message delivered in such a simple and easy to understand way. So put your faith in me as we leap through this episode. This is Leap of Faith. The episode begins with our pony protagonists all taking a swim together while Granny naps off to the side, until Apple Bloom splashes her with water. Rather than apologize, Apple Bloom invites Granny to swim with them, which prompts her to tell a brief backstory about why she no longer has the gumption to do anything water-related.
I was an aqua pony all-star. I was the only apple to ever come close to breaking the Equestria high diving record. Falling 6 stories into a deep dish pie pan takes a toll on the hindquarters.
Granny mentions that even the idea of swimming causes her whole body to ache. However, she specifically focuses on the fact that at this point in her life, she knows she's just too old for these kind of activities. It's almost presented as Granny having this weird trauma related to high diving, since they claim she's terrified of swimming, and when Apple Bloom asks if she could ever be a high diver, both Applejack and Big Mac quickly shut her down.
Do you think I could be a high diver?
Nope.
Absolutely not.
They go back and forth about the dangers and logistics of high diving before being interrupted by a crowd of town ponies, many of whom appear to be sick or injured. Apple Bloom and Granny decide to follow the crowd, with Applejack and Big Mac hesitantly trailing behind, as they're led into what appears to be a circus tent of some kind. Which brings us to the musical number of this episode.
Thank you, one and all, for your attendance, and we guarantee that your time here will not be spent in vain. In fact, we think it will prove to be the most valuable time you've ever spent.
For the second time in the series, we're met again with the Flim Flam brothers, as they go on to sing about their new product, which is essentially snake oil. Music preference is obviously subjective, and while this song is catchy, I don't believe it even comes close to the Super Cider Squeezy 6000 song. However, visually, there are a lot of blink and you'll miss it moments, some of which you might want to miss, and overall, it's pretty entertaining. My problem is that these two are known con artists, yet somehow Granny, without any skepticism, immediately folds and buys a bottle. I will mention that this was after witnessing a pony who was using crutches no longer need them after drinking it.
It can make you shorter, taller, or even grow old. But who'd want that cause with one drink? You can be young again.
Sold!
Oh my god, bro.
The next day, or perhaps later that evening, it's not really made clear since we just kind of come back from a cut to black sequence, Apple Bloom, AJ, and Big Mac are all out fishing together, as Apple Bloom talks about how she genuinely can't believe how much of a miracle product the new Flim Flam Brothers Tonic is, with Applejack then proceeding to deliver some powerful wisdom.
When some pony says something's too good to be true, it usually is.
As tough as it is to hear, it's honestly a really good message and something I wish they focused on a little more. But their conversation is quickly interrupted by Granny, who appears to be swimming in the river, much to the group's surprise, as they all attempt to rescue her, including this moment where Applejack casually completely deroots and knocks down an entire tree.
What in tarnation?
It appears as though, thanks to the Flim Flam Brothers Tonic, Granny has once again gained the ability to participate in aquatic activities. Understandably, both AJ and Big Mac are skeptical, so AJ directly asks Granny how can she even be sure it's the tonic that's helping her, with Granny genuinely believing it to be some sort of magical elixir, which causes so much doubt in Applejack's mind That later that night, her and Apple Bloom both return to the circus tent so that they may investigate the situation, where they end up running into the same pony that was previously on crutches who drank the tonic to heal himself, because as it turns out, he was really just a plant in the audience.
You never needed crutches at all, did you?
You've made me 1930s work whistle angry!
After finding Flim and Flam, surprisingly they just indirectly admit that the tonic is practically bogus, being made from crushed apples and greens. However, by approaching the situation as the tonic working as a placebo to give Granny happiness and confidence,
Do you really want to be the pony who takes all that happiness away?
they emotionally manipulate Applejack into validating the product, who claims that so long as it works, she doesn't really care what's in it, which Apple Bloom reinforces into her beliefs since she holds Applejack's word into such high regard, demonstrating how a lack of moral discipline, responsibilities, or ethics enables poor decision-making, bad behavior, which is then passed down to the next person, or pony.
Well, if it doesn't matter to you, then it doesn't matter to me either, sis.
This setup works as an amazing central theme and message, but again, I just can't help but be a little frustrated at how willing Granny is to purchase and consume this product. Given her age, shouldn't she recognize that they're practically selling piss in a jar and calling it peach tea? Especially since one of the two ingredients is literally apples, you know, like the apple family. Perhaps there's something to do there with exploiting people's vulnerabilities and weaknesses, but they don't really address it in that way, and rather just make Granny appear as incredibly gullible.
Granny, don't you think you should take it kinda easy?
I've been taking it easy for too long, and now thanks to that Flim Flam tonic, I don't have to.
Apple Bloom offers the idea of signing her and Granny up for a water meet competition, with Granny originally being a little reluctant. Applejack affirms that if she has the ability to swim in a river and a lake, then being in a pool should be no problem. Which, while being pretty sound logic, probably isn't the best idea to be enabling this kind of behavior, especially given her knowledge about the tonic.
Well, I'll be a tart turnover, you are right. All we need now is more tonic.
As the family goes to purchase more tonic, there happens to be a large line of ponies who are awaiting the next presentation. Granny decides to buy an entire case, allowing Flim and Flam to openly exploit the opportunity, since Applejack verbally claims it works for Granny. Thus, every pony in line decides to buy the tonic, with Applejack obviously not feeling good about this, as we then cut over to the swim meet.
Hoo-ha! Hee-hee-ha! Hoo-ha!
Something funny that the brothers do here is use Applejack as an advertisement, but like, come on guys, at least pay her royalties for her likeness. Apple Bloom and Granny Smith perform their aquabatics and end up receiving perfect 10s, which of course enables Flim and Flam to push more of their product. Meanwhile, Applejack then notices the pony that was fake using his crutches, working the audience stands to sell tonic.
Just made my first bid as a sales pony.
He tells AJ that he used to wonder if he was doing the right thing, since he knew he was willingly lying and deceiving other ponies, but it wasn't until Applejack that he realized that
Sometimes honesty isn't the best policy.
Thanks to me?
which rightfully causes her to snap, as she claims that if ponies believe that the tonic is truly magical, who knows what might happen, as we then witness Granny Smith climbing the ladder for a high dive. Applejack rushes as quickly as she can to prevent Granny from jumping, but it appears that she is too late, and Granny Smith jumps to her death. That is of course right before AJ manages to catch her with a lasso. She tells Granny that she is being foolish, but Granny refuses to listen, explaining that as long as she has the tonic, anything is possible. Which is when AJ has her rainbow eyes moment, as she knows that she has to do the right thing, causing her to come clean about the tonic and owning up to admitting the truth.
Are you saying you lied?
I am.
This causes Apple Bloom to wonder, however, that if the tonic was fake, how come Granny was able to perform the aquabatics, let alone swim again? She explains to her that maybe sometimes all you need is a little extra confidence to be reminded about all the amazing things you can do, but lying about a product or providing false advertisement is straight up wrong. Flim and Flam of course try to flip this, but are quickly shut down.
But you just said it boosts confidence. And that's not all it does, folks.
Yes, it is.
So the pony from earlier who Flim and Flam employed eventually speaks out on the fact that the tonic actually does nothing. He continues and explains that witnessing Applejack save Granny and admit the truth gave him the confidence to finally do the right thing. He even gives Applejack the bit he made from his first sale and reassures her that he'll find the pony who gave it to him and pay them back respectively. Granny says she'll continue swimming, but condemns Flim and Flam for making her believe she could do the impossible. And without anyone noticing, they manage to get away. We then wrap up with our simple but very honest message.
Being honest sure gets hard when it seems like the truth might hurt some pony you care about. But I think believing a lie can end up hurting even more.
All things considered, given that Applejack is the element of honesty, I'm surprised they're only now delivering this kind of messaging. An omission of information is a violation of the truth, and most certainly deals with being honest. They show how it not only hurts those directly impacted, like when Granny Smith jumped off the high dive, but also indirectly with Apple Bloom and the town ponies respectively following Applejack's word. The episode then closes on Applejack's rainbow item. Honestly, a really well-rounded and entertaining episode. Obviously, there's a lot to cover, and I definitely skipped out on many of the nuances, so I would absolutely recommend checking this one out. Granny has a lot of funny moments, and watching Applejack's character arc from start to finish is really satisfying. As I said in the beginning, it's a solid episode, and I'm more than happy that we went over it on this quest to cover every Rainbow Keys episode. With that, there's only one episode left before the big finale, so please join me next time as we cover the fan-favorite episode, Pinkie Pride. But what did you think of Leap of Faith, as well as this video? Let me know your thoughts below, and as always, thank you for watching, and take care.